All right, so buckle up, because today we're plumbing the depths of one of literature's most, let's say, intriguing and, let's be honest, kind of frustrating characters. Dostoevsky's underground man.
He's certainly one of a kind.
That's an understatement. And we're diving deep into his world. This isn't your typical hero's journey, not by a long shot. This is a deep dive into the dark, the uncomfortable corners of the human psyche. You know, the stuff we usually try to avoid.
The raw nerves of existence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So whether you're already a Dostoevsky fan or, just looking for a literary challenge, this deep dive, it's for you.
It's a wild ride.
It really is. And I couldn't navigate this labyrinth without our resident Dostoevsky expert. Welcome.
Thanks. Always happy to delve into the underground.
So the underground man, our narrator, right from page 1, he just hits you with this raw, unfiltered, almost confessional style. It's like, whoa.
He doesn't hold back.
Not one bit. He's like, I'm a sick man, a spiteful man, and get this, I'm a most unpleasant man.
And just when you think you've got him pegged,
He flips the script. He calls himself a man of acute sensibility, but then in the next breath, he's bragging about, tormenting some poor clerk because of a squeaky shoe. It's wild.
Dostoevsky plunges us right into those contradictions, and he never lets up.
It's brilliant and maddening at the same time. You almost want to hate the guy, but Dostoevsky, he makes it impossible.
He's too good.
He really is.
Yeah.
I mean, how did Dostoevsky create a character that embodies the anxieties of modern life back in 19th century Russia? It's mind-blowing.
Well, think about it. This is a time of immense change. Social upheaval, philosophical ferment.
Everything's changing.
Everything's up in the air. The old ways are crumbling, and people are trying to figure out what it means to be modern.
And the underground man, he's like the ultimate embodiment of that struggle, right?
A walking contradiction.
Totally. He's hyper-aware, overthinks everything, constantly getting in his own way.
Classic conscious inertia.
Is that what he calls it?
It's one of Dostoevsky's gems, that concept of conscious inertia.
Mhm.
It's like Dostoevsky is holding up a mirror to the reader, making us confront those self-sabotaging parts of ourselves. And he does it through these incredibly vivid, often uncomfortable anecdotes from the underground man's life.
Oh, tell me about it. Like the story about the clerk with the squeaky boots. The guy spends a year trying to start a fight with this guy.
Yeah.
Just to, assert some kind of
But
dominance.
then backs down every time.
Every single time. And to make it worse, he's got these elaborate fantasies about how the confrontation will go. But in reality, paralyzed.
Trapped in his own head.
Exactly. So instead of actually confronting the clerk, he retreats into this world of resentment and fantasy.
Craves connection, but sabotages it at every turn.
So he's like that friend we all have, the one seems to cultivate misery, but deep down, they're just lonely.
They want the connection, just can't seem to make it happen.
And that's Dostoevsky's genius, right?
Yeah.
Creating these characters who are deeply flawed, yet strangely relatable.
And don't forget those fantasies. The grandeur, the heroism.
Oh man, the fantasies. Meanwhile, back in his real life, he can barely hold down a job.
The tension between who he thinks he is and who he actually is, it's palpable.
It's like this constant push and pull.
Yeah.
And it's like Dostoevsky saying, hey, guess what? You're not alone in your weirdness.
We all have those dark corners, those contradictions.
Exactly. Speaking of weirdness, we've got to talk about this dinner party.
Oh, the dinner
A
party.
recipe for disaster.
If ever there was one.
All right, so the underground man hears that Zverkov, this old schoolmate, is throwing a going-away party.
Ah, yes. Zverkov.
And we don't know all the details of their history, but it's pretty clear it wasn't all sunshine and roses,
A bit of a grudge there.
More than a bit, I'd say. But anyway, our dear underground man decides this is his chance. He's going to shine, show them all, prove his intellectual superiority. The whole 9 yards.
What could possibly go wrong?
Seriously. It's like walking into a lion's den wearing a meat suit. So he goes to this party, right? And what's the first thing he does?
Shows up an hour early.
An hour early. Talk about making an entrance.
Oh, he makes an entrance, all right. But not the one he was hoping for.
No one's even there yet. And when they do show up, well, they make it pretty clear he's not exactly at the top of their guest list.
They're not thrilled.
They put it mildly. And then it gets worse. He tries to pay for his share at the dinner, even though they obviously don't want his money. Honestly, it's painful to read.
Just keeps digging that hole.
Classic self-sabotage. It's like watching someone try to put out a fire with, gasoline.
A perfect analogy. And then Zverkov arrives.
Cue the dramatic music.
Right. Except here's the thing. Zverkov isn't even that bad. I mean, he's not exactly warm and fuzzy, but he's not the arrogant bully the underground man has built him up to be.
So the underground man can't even enjoy his righteous anger.
Not this time.
Because Zverkov's not playing the role he's supposed to play.
It's like the universe is conspiring against him.
The universe, or maybe just, his own mind. So, walk me through this. The underground man's been basically ignored all night, right? What does he do?
Well, after 3 hours of, let's say, pacing around like a caged animal, he finally snaps.
Snaps. Like completely loses it. Throws a tantrum.
Not exactly. It's more like a slow-motion explosion of awkwardness,
I think I know the type.
He interrupts Zverkov mid-story and just launches into this bizarre, rambling monologue. He's talking about hating phrases, ribaldry, men in corsets. It's all over the map.
Wait, men in corsets? Where did that come from?
Who knows? But the point is, it's all just a desperate attempt to get their attention.
And does it work?
About as well as you'd expect. They're more confused than impressed. Mostly just confused.
Oh, this is painful. He's trying so hard to fit in with this group he clearly doesn't even like, but he's also furious that they don't recognize his obvious superiority.
The ultimate catch-22.
Okay, so where does he go from there? Does he just melt into a puddle of existential angst?
You wish. No, he challenges someone to a duel.
He's kidding, right? A
Yeah.
duel, like with swords, in 19th century Russia.
I know, totally absurd. But it speaks to this desperation, this need to assert some kind of power, even if it means clinging to these completely outdated rituals.
And of course, no one takes him seriously.
Of course not. They laugh it off, which just humiliates him even more.
Oh man, this poor guy. I almost feel bad for him. Almost.
Well, don't get too sympathetic yet.
Why? What happens next?
He begs to go with them to a brothel.
No way. He did not just do that. Tell me he did not just do that.
Oh, he did. He follows them there, fueled by this potent cocktail of despair, loneliness, and probably a few too many glasses of whatever they were drinking.
Talk about self-sabotage. This is a whole new level.
It's like he wants to punish himself for even wanting these things. Friendship acceptance,
So he goes to this brothel.
He does. But when he gets there,
They left him there, didn't they?
they're long gone, the party's over, and he's left there alone in this strange, let's be honest, kind of seedy place.
Yeah.
And that's where he meets Liza.
Riza. Okay. This is where things take an interesting turn.
You could say that. So we've got the underground man, Mr. Cynical, Mr. Spiteful, as he calls himself, alone in a brothel, and he's with Liza.
Quite the pair.
It's like Dostoevsky is setting us up for this, this collision of two completely different worlds. You've got the underground man with all his, intellectual baggage and self-loathing, and then Liza, who's trapped in this life, but there's still this sense of innocence about her,
She represents something he both craves and rejects. Genuine human connection.
Exactly. So what does he do? Does he just,
He tries to save her.
save her? Come on, he doesn't even know her.
That's the point, isn't it? He launches into this long-winded lecture about the evils of her profession, completely missing the point, or maybe, deliberately missing the point.
It's like he's projecting his own misery onto her.
Exactly. As if by convincing her that her life is awful, he can somehow justify his own self-loathing.
It's awful to read, honestly. You can just feel Liza's vulnerability. She's desperate for someone to see her as a human being, and he's so busy, being the underground man, that he completely misses it.
But then something shifts.
He lets his guard down.
He does. He starts talking about his own life, mentions a father he knew who doted on his daughter. It's this brief moment of vulnerability, of genuine human connection.
So maybe there's hope for him yet.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But this is the underground man we're talking about. He panics, retreats back into his shell of cynicism.
And does he? He does something awful, doesn't he?
He throws money at her.
Oh, no.
No, he didn't.
He does. It's like he's trying to erase the intimacy of their encounter, to reduce it to a transaction. Like she's a prostitute. It's like he can't handle vulnerability, so he lashes out.
And Liza, heartbroken and humiliated, she leaves.
So he drives her away just like he drives everyone away.
He's left alone, consumed by shame and regret. He even tries to go after her to apologize, but he stops himself.
Paralyzed by his own self-doubt.
He's convinced he's incapable of love, of redemption, that he's destined to be alone.
So he retreats back into his underground, this self-imposed exile.
It's a vicious cycle, isn't it?
So what's the takeaway here? Are we all just doomed to repeat the underground man's mistakes? To sabotage our own happiness?
That's the question Dostoevsky leaves us with, isn't it? The underground man is an extreme example, sure, but there's a universality to his struggle.
We all have that capacity for self-sabotage.
We all have our own underground, those dark corners where we hide from ourselves and others.
That's not really a happy ending, is it?
Not in the traditional sense, but there's a glimmer of hope, I think. By recognizing these tendencies in ourselves, by acknowledging our own capacity for self-destruction, we have a chance to choose differently.
To choose connection over isolation, love over fear.
To choose authenticity, even when it's terrifying.
It's a challenge, for sure. But maybe, just maybe, it's a challenge we can overcome. And on that note, we come to the end of our deep dive into Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground. What resonated with you most about the underground man's journey? Share your thoughts with us in the comments and join us next time for another deep dive into the world of ideas that matter.